And go ahead.
Alright, this is Georgia Planning, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. And we're meeting with Michael, our town plan guy.
Good evening. How is everybody?
Good.
Good.
Did you have anything? I assume you guys have some administrative stuff to take care of before you want me to talk, so I will shut up.
No, we're gonna let you talk. All we have
Oh.
is minutes and some other things. We can do those at the end.
Right. The addition I want to make is the draft of the town plan grant that was passed out. So if everybody got it in the packet or outside of the packet. So that's just something I would add to the agenda after my.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to use this opportunity to sort of give you a recap of where we are as far as preparing for the open house and workshop, and go over some of the materials that I put together, and just do some coordination with you guys. Would I be allowed to do a screen share? You trust me?
Oh, sure.
It's disabled right now.
Yeah, you have to make him a.
Can you go
Under
there?
share
There you
screen,
go.
can you? Oh, no, that's just you.
That's me.
What about?
Can you press the up arrow on that share screen? Oh, that's, yeah, the share screen up arrow over here.
That good?
Oh, I believe I have the ability to do that now.
This is fine. Here.
Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. I wish you would show me what you guys are seeing, because I can never quite tell, but okay. These are some draft boards that I've been putting together. These would be 2 foot by 3 foot boards as part of the sort of the open house, and I guess also for the workshop as people enter. First one being essentially a welcome board that just introduces, what we're doing here, and gives people some instructions, asking folks to sign in, grab an information sheet, which I'll show you guys in a moment, and some sticky notes, and explaining how to sort of follow around on the numbered boards around the room to sort of explain the story of what it is we're doing and what we're looking to do. Looking to put in a little map here of what we're the sort of the layout. I'll discuss that in a minute, and then obviously speak to myself and any of the Planning Commission members who might be there. Board 2, this just basically gives us sort of an introduction to what we're doing, as far as updating the town plan, what the town plan is, how we're going to use some of this to develop a survey to go out later this year. This is our schedule. With the project start, open house, survey, topic meetings, writing the draft plan, presenting the draft plan, revising it, final presentation, and then plan adoption, and then QR code and website here to direct people to the web page that we have set up. Next, several boards start to cue people into some questions about what do you think are the most important issues in the town of Georgia today that they would be interested in looking at, and encouraging people to write down notes and add them here as sort of sticky notes as they go along. What would you like to see change in the town of Georgia? Similar, and then whenever I ask a question like that, I also want to say, and conversely, what do you not want to see change? What do you want to see stay the same? What are things that folks would like to protect in town, for example? And then I thought about, I don't know why there's a line here. Um, uh, this map might be a little big for this right now. I thought about doing boards asking about the different sort of hamlets. I don't know if that would be getting enough input. So I have at least right now this one board that sort of shows town-wide and asking if people have any suggestions for specific places, and if folks have input they want to give about any of the various hamlets and so forth. That might be one area to do it. I'm still adding some sort of landmarks to this as far as labeling some of the roads, putting in some landmarks such as points of interest that people might recognize so they can help sort of orient themselves. But again, inviting people to put some information here that they would like to add. Next one, getting to what words might you use to describe what your overall vision is for the town, future vision for the town of Georgia. And then lastly, are there any questions in specific that they'd like us to ask in the upcoming survey that will start to, I think, give them the opportunity, if there's a specific thing that they think might be worth asking on the survey, let us know and we can consider whether or not that's something we want to include. I can email this copy of the boards to you guys if you want to take a closer look. And if you have any suggestions of any changes or additions you think we might want to make, you can certainly make that. I need to sort of wrap this up to get it printed with about a week before the event. So, but if anybody has any thoughts on things they'd like to add or change, let me know. I can email this to everybody tonight right after the meeting. Also, in addition to when I think people arrive for the open house and the sort of presentation, also put together a handout which has a lot of the same information, but they can sort of bring it home with them. Also includes the link to the town project website, explaining what's going to happen after the open house, what to do if they weren't able to attend, how they can still participate, and so forth. So that's I think a good takeaway. So when people go home, they still have something to bring with them and share with other folks. Just working on the sort of PowerPoint presentation right now. That's going to be for the workshop portion of it, and we'll be going through a lot of the same stuff you see on the boards, but also maybe going into opportunities for a lot more detail into some of the recommendations that the town plan has right now to try and coax from people. What do they think of that? What would they like to see now, and so forth, so we can get into a little bit more detail during that portion of the evening. But for the most part, I'm looking to get or at least give people the opportunity to share these ideas at both events. Before I go on, does anybody have any questions or comments on what I just shared?
One of the things I'm noticing on the handout that we have here on the screen now, it's got dates. And on the board, when you had the timeline, it showed the progression of things, but didn't show actual dates. Is that something we want to include, or?
Did have dates.
I generally don't like putting dates on, because then if times slip, it looks bad. But actually I did have rough dates. You might not have been able to see. Let me zoom in here a little bit.
Okay. That'd be fine then.
And this is rough. I mean, October open house, I feel pretty safe about that. November, December for the community survey, and then spring, summer. Oh, that's not right. Thank you. You just that's a typo. I need to fix that. That shouldn't say February. And then fall.
We got the wrong year also.
Yep. So I mean, I consider those pretty broad if we're just talking like spring, summer, fall. Um, I feel those are fairly gives us enough wiggle room, and still our goal is to obviously we have the hard date of January, but I would like to, kind of hopefully wrap up before then. So. Let me fix that before I send it to you. Any other thoughts, comments?
The map page.
Yep.
I'm just a little, like, unless the map is huge, I don't know how we're gonna put sticky notes on it without covering up the map.
Right.
And I'm not sure. I like maps and I'm a map reader. I know a lot of people that couldn't look at this map and find their house.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure how it's gonna work.
I'm wondering about, well, go ahead.
Sorry, if we do wanna keep the map, maybe add another board with the sections on there, like Georgia Center, and they can put sticky notes on that, that leaves the actual map itself uncovered, if that makes sense. Or do we have to find bounds for these areas, or just kind of general locations?
Mostly general locations, I would think.
Yeah, I wonder if we just had another separate board that had the names of the different areas. That they could just add stickies to that, and then that leaves them actual map.
Or they could
Available.
even write the name of their area,
Right.
right, their suggestion, right on this, if it's not one of the ones we already have.
So perhaps another board that talks about the
Just-
various hamlets.
Yeah, just the names of the hamlets or,
Just so they're not, the map doesn't end up, like Susanna said, getting covered with stickies and people are trying to lift and look and.
Sometimes what I will do when things get, if a board gets overwhelmed, I'll take some photographs of the board and then relocate some of the stickies, but then refer back to the photographs to what was there. So just to free up some space. But I prefer leaving the stickies because it allows other people to see some of the suggestions by other people. Okay. I mean, the map is fairly big. It's 2 foot by 3 foot board. But the map itself, because of the shape of town, only takes up about half of that. So
yeah, and right now that board is in landscape and are the other ones in portrait?
yes.
Okay.
I could make the map bigger by doing it landscape, whereas it was slightly smaller if I tried to keep all the boards vertical.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it would help to have sort of a zoom in view of each of the hamlets. If that would be helpful.
Could be.
Possibly. I'm thinking most people are gonna think about things right in their neighborhood.
Yep.
So it's gonna say,
First thing they do is try and find their house.
they find their house and then they complain about, on Sodom Road, there's that blind corner and the school bus is always on the wrong side of the road when they come around it, or whatever it is their issue is in their little neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I could do another board or two that has sort of a close-up view of some of the hamlets. I just want to make sure I capture what everybody thinks each hamlet is.
Yeah.
Most of the areas, I think you've identified, the only ones that, see, where is Mill River? That's that.
Yeah, he's gotta put some road names on there because otherwise.
That might help too,
Too
yeah.
many roads, go straight west more or less and unless you know them pretty well, you get mixed up. I get mixed
Mhm.
up all the time on which one's which when I'm looking at the map.
Yep, I still have to label the roads. I wasn't sure if I started to label the recreation area in the Webster Town Forest. I wasn't sure if any of the cemeteries are good landmarks. People probably know that there's a cemetery there. They don't know the names of all of them, maybe.
So I don't think that's necessarily,
Um,
I think roads are gonna be the most helpful.
yeah.
sorry, what was that?
Roads,
Yeah.
obviously the main
At
ones.
least the main ones, every single road is gonna get crowded, but, if you put Route 7, 104A and some of the main roads that go
I think,
across.
yeah, some of these crossroads.
Right.
Right, yeah, those are the major ones.
Hmm. Yeah, certainly. Okay. I will add those and get this back to you guys either later tonight or tomorrow so you can take another look at it if you have any other thoughts. In the meantime, went over the handout. As far as advertising is going, I did set up a Facebook event, which has gotten some, at least a little bit of attention. Experimenting with some paid advertisement through Facebook Meta with that, where we're just trying $1 a day just to target a 4-mile radius around Georgia Center. I have no idea if it's actually doing anything, but Facebook says it is. So we'll see. I was also able to get into the Georgia community group page about a week ago, and just noticed today I got into the Georgia Uncensored Facebook group. So I've started posting some advertising there. It's gotten a few clicks and interested, not a lot of activity yet. But so we'll see. We still have 2 weeks left, but I'd like to get a little bit more.
Anecdotally, I'm part of at least the uncensored one, create more than post, and that hasn't come across. I mean, I don't interact with that group tons, but I haven't seen that advertisement pop up in my newsfeed. I know it's kind of anecdotal.
I haven't seen.
but
Yeah.
I haven't, yeah, so.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I'd love to know if any of this, paid
Yeah.
promotion works or not. Without being there, I just have to trust Facebook that they're telling me the truth. So anyway, yes, here's I assume you can still see my screen. Here's the group. We've got, this is the Georgia Vermont group. I just made a new version of the ad today just to mix things up so people don't get bored of seeing the same thing. With the picture of the firehouse. Then and then in the uncensored one, this is the original ad that went up. I just duplicated it over to their page. And I noticed you guys have this announcement up on the town page. Thank you. And the only thing I didn't see is over on the town Facebook page. Didn't look like there was anything. I don't know if you guys think it's worth throwing one of the images up on that. The last post on there was September, so maybe the 1,000 viewers you guys have on that page is the same 1,000 that's on the other pages. I don't know.
But it's another place, like, I'm on all those pages and I have not seen this pop up. So
Okay.
I'm not on every day and it just got lost in the shuffle, so it's worth putting it in different places, I think.
Okay. So yeah, that would be great. It's fairly easy to do. I can resend those images if you guys need. Are there any other groups? I think when we met in person, we talked about pushing it out through some of the other groups that might have a local following. Was it like the Historical Society or?
Right, I haven't gotten to that quite yet. We have a board meeting tomorrow night, so I can see that that gets done tomorrow at least.
Okay, thank you.
What about Front Porch Forum? Do you have it in a Word format for Front Porch Forum?
What's the front porch forum?
Who did?
About the library,
The
I can-
library?
Um,
On their webpage, or their library even.
I may be able to post directly to Front Porch. I'm used to doing it in my own home area, so I don't know how it works for out of area, but I can certainly do that.
You can't submit to an out of area unless you join that area.
Okay.
Or you're in a neighboring town, which I'm pretty sure your town doesn't neighbor.
No,
ours.
we don't quite touch. Okay. Okay. And then yeah, just as a sort of general reminder, at the next select board meeting or DRB meeting, if there's any folks in the audience or watching online, it's, great to just give a shout out to remind people about this. I'd hate to go through this and not get a good chunk of people, so that would be good.
Yeah.
I reached out to the fire chief next door at the where this meeting is going to be held, just to coordinate a couple of items with them as far as what time can I arrive to set up? Are we allowed to have food, drinks, beverages, snacks, sort of thing? And I was hoping he might be able to get me a photo or two of the meeting room so I have an idea what to expect and can plan ahead for my setup. He has not gotten back to me. Does anybody know a good way to get in touch with a fire chief?
You just go over and take some pictures.
Yeah, I can do that tomorrow. I can take some pictures and send them to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Yeah, just like two, maybe like one from each corner, like opposite corners of the room, just so I have an idea of how it's laid out and I can plan ahead. I hate surprises.
Chief works full time in another town, so, and I'm sure he has a weird schedule, so,
I think their biggest thing,
It's
like when they
not-
rent it out, is don't tape stuff to the wall.
no.
Oh, yeah, they hate that.
But he just wants to see
Take
like
the trash
where
out.
the screen is and.
Yeah. I have about a dozen easels which I use to put boards up, my projector screens, freestanding. I have all my own equipment. I just want to make sure everything's going to work when nothing like getting there and finding out all the seating is bolted to the floor and you can't rearrange stuff. So.
Where are the uplifts?
Church.
No, unfortunately, in this case, we have to get there and set all the chairs up, so that's the.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem getting there an hour or two early just to set everything up. So, and I take a photo before I move anything. So when it's the end of the night and it's time to put everything back, I just refer to the photos and I remember how to put everything back. Let's see what else we got. Food snack. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts if they do allow us food and beverage there?
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have a little
Okay.
kitchen.
Okay, because I might just grab some, coffee and donuts or something for people just to capture them.
Greg was thinking about making cookies.
Oh, cookies are good. That got a lot more laughter than I expected.
There you go.
Then and here's one question I have. When this date was picked, I didn't realize that this date was also your normal planning commission night. So, how do you guys, if at all, plan to be attending the evening session?
That is what we're going to do for our meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought this was a tricky, clever way of getting out of the meeting.
But we told people it wasn't required, but some of us will be there for sure.
Okay. Okay. Those are the items I wanted to cover with you guys. In the meantime, I'm just hoping to just kind of push the word out and get as much buzz as we can about this in advance. We still got 2 weeks, so there's time to drum up some more interest. But right now on Facebook, I think there's only 2 people said they're going, and they're both me. And there's 17 people interested, but I'm not sure what we need to do to tip that scale. So, if you have any thoughts, I'm all ears at trying stuff. So we'll see. You guys have any questions? I can get these revised maps and boards and stuff to you guys. Okay, maybe not tonight, but tomorrow morning.
That should work. Hmm.
The page that you had, I think it was the last page in your presentation that says like, oh, I couldn't make it and here's another way I could, is there a way to get some copies of that? Yeah, that page.
Yes. I mean, I could send you this right now if you wanted to print a couple of copies just to have on the table for when people are in for meetings.
Well, and I run an exercise class and I've told people about it, but I can't put a poster up where we do our exercise, but I could have a couple of these on the table and they could take a picture of it or scan the doohickey-doo thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you
Tape
know,
tape it to your back while you're doing aerobics.
Yeah, there you go.
there we go.
Yes. Let me just make sure the dates are correct and I will send that as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I let you get back to your regularly scheduled meeting?
How much participation do you want from us in the meeting?
That is entirely up to you. I don't like to force people. So what I usually say is that if you feel shy and don't want to tip the scales or lead the witnesses, if you will, you are free to stand and observe. I always like it when you are there to observe so that you can hear what folks are saying yourself and you're not just taking it, from my recap second-handed. But if you would like to step in and help ask questions and try and glean insight from people on what they want to see, that's always helpful. The first part of this exercise is usually trying to explain to people what a town plan is and what a town plan isn't. And once you get there and start to get them to think about, what would they like to see in the plan as far as the future of the town, that's when things start to get a little bit more interesting. But often there's confusion about, is this, writing law, or is this, changing the zoning? And we have to sort of explain that this is really the step before that. But so if you guys have other thoughts or wish to participate in any way, let me know. A lot of communities don't want to lead the witness and they just want to observe. And that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so um, I will plan to, if it's all good with the fire station, get there probably a little bit more than an hour before the open house starts to set up. Um, and you're welcome to join me anytime during the day or at the uh, actual presentation.
Okay,
Okay.
yep, sounds good.
Okay.
So after this event, when should we next plan to meet with you, or when are we gonna hear from you, or what's the next step?
That's a good question. I would need at least a couple of days after the event to compile all the notes, and then I would recommend whatever's uh, the next meeting date you guys would have that fits into that category. Then I would have the meeting notes and feedback compiled to start reviewing with you.
Okay,
So looking at your
second Tuesday in November.
14th.
14th, I will be out of town, unfortunately. So does that bump us all the way to the 28th?
Yeah,
Yep,
Well then why don't, let's see, November, why
Or-
don't I get you the materials before I leave so that you have a chance to review the input.
mhm,
So I would plan to get it to you guys, say before the 10th. No, wait. Yeah, before the 10th, November 10th. Get you the packaged input and everything from both events and some ideas on how we might want to proceed.
and then we could discuss it on the 14th without you and give you some feedback, is that what you'd like?
Oh, actually, yeah, I mean that would give you opportunity to discuss it amongst yourselves, and then I can then catch up with you guys the meeting after.
Okay,
And by then maybe have some preliminary community survey questions to go over with you guys.
okay. So could you do that maybe a day or two earlier, cause those of us that like to pick up packets would like to pick them up on Friday, which I think is the 10th, is that right?
yeah, but it's also Veterans Day, so are they gonna be open here?
On the 10th, are you close?
You should be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so if you're saying get you the materials
If you
before
read it to
the
the
8th or 9th,
Yeah, the 8th or 9th, then, Colleen could make copies and put it in our packets for us, so we can pick it up and read it.
yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. So your next meeting is the 28th, and then I'll be targeting it. Whoa, not didn't mean that. And then I would be targeting no later than the 8th to get you guys I mean, you should be able to do it before then.
so on the 28th, we'll be putting the list of questions together for the survey, is that,
That's the idea, right?
okay? And do you think that's gonna take 2 hours, or?
I think it's going to take maybe more than one meeting. I think I'll try and get you guys a draft of some initial ideas that we have, and then we might bat them back and forth for a meeting or two and figuring out which questions we want to ask and how we want to ask them. We have the whole holiday period, which is kind of awkward to deal with. So I figured we can use some of that to trying to finalize what the survey questions are.
Okay. We have other things that we're trying to do, so I'm trying to figure out if we spend part of a meeting on the 14th and then part of the meeting on the 28th, we could do other stuff.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Do you have a preference which of the first or second meetings a month you deal with me versus your regularly
It doesn't
scheduled?
really matter to us, and you know, if you send us the information, we could spend half of our meeting mulling it over on the 14th, even though you're not gonna be there, and then talk to you again on the 28th, but are we gonna talk for 2 hours, or would an hour be enough, do you think?
I assume an hour would be enough, but I don't know what surprise feedback we might get from the public that might. I never know. I don't want to presuppose.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll plan to do something else the other half of that meeting, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Okay.
Just trying to figure out planning
and
what we're gonna do. at our
from
meeting.
your experience, these are all publicly warned meetings, but for the most part, nobody ever shows up for the public part of it. Do you think that we might be fielding anything like that from your experience? Do people tend to attend the crunching meetings, so to speak, or?
As far as working out the details of the survey?
Yeah,
No, I don't. I don't see that. Though most of my committee, I mean, there are open meeting laws, but most of my committees that I work with are separately established just to do this, and nobody actually shows up to monitor them. They're not like a regular board such as yours. But I mean, maybe they would, but I don't see it. I have a hard enough time getting people to show up for the fun stuff of visioning.
I'm glad to hear that it's not just us.
Not just you.
All right, so
Okay.
do you have any more for us?
I don't, unless all of you or any of you have any other questions.
I don't think so.
Okay.
think we're
You
good.
got anything?
Well, if anything occurs to you or you have a question, feel free to shoot me an email or have Douglas shoot me an email, either way, and I'll get back to you guys. My main goal is to just try and get as many people to show up for the event as possible, so that we have some faces to ask questions to.
Yes,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
me too.
Okay. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this, application for. Well, we're gonna do something, we didn't think right now. The grants. I started reading. You wanna take, a few minutes and read it over? Did they read it before? I didn't even know it was in the packet. For some reason, when I open packets, there's nothing there. It's actually supposed to be.
No,
stuff.
we finished this just today.
Oh,
We threw
okay,
in
so
the-
it wasn't in the
So
packet. I
it's
was-
not due
no.
until next month, however, the earlier we can get feedback from everyone, the better.
Sure.
Or the earlier we submit it, the better.
Okay, so this is a copy of basically how you would fill it out.
Correct, right.
Okay, so
So there is,
there's boxes checked. Are
right,
there any narrative sections?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's anything that, yeah, written in the boxes, for direct questions. So this is just kind of the template to work on before we upload it into their database.
Ready? All right,
So, first page, and I don't know, again. It's a
Right.
sample, or I guess, yeah, page two. Yeah, like probably another.
okay,
It says, you know, single municipality legal status, will the RPC serve as your agent for this rural town project? We're not a rural town, so I don't know.
Oh,
Based
that's
on
true.
population.
Which right before it says rural population below.
yeah, but the second question says rural town in it. I think when you fill it out for real, if that question doesn't need to be answered, it
Right.
won't be highlighted.
Will, yeah,
Because the definition of rural towns are defined in
Right.
statute as municipalities with populations below 2,500.
I just said we're not a rural town and then it asked us for next week. But
Well,
I,
that-
somewhere in here I read that that one will gray out when you're
Yeah.
actually filling it out for real, so hopefully that will happen.
And also, did Doug finally come up with the number that he's happy with? He said he tried to find some sort of legal. I mean, but he said that the census didn't even agree with anything.
Yeah, but we're above 2,500.
Regardless.
He had that 25 was one of the answers,
We are above 2,500.
I would think, but.
A kind of running theme, just to kind of keep tabs on, is town plan, T and the P being capitalized.
Sometimes, but not always.
Right. So that's on page 3.
Oh, yeah.
Four. Okay, it's cut off.
there's nothing we can do about that, I mean, this is
Yep.
just our word template. I mean, it's not, the text is all there, the box is cut off.
I realize I missed a couple meetings due to personal reasons, but I'm concerned about the village center designation, because I feel like that is,
I think that there's a misunderstanding on the part of,
because it seems to be
Someone.
favoring
we
one
are.
or two people very heavily, which I
But
am
what
concerned about.
we're not trying to do a new town center. We can do a historic
This is
village.
village town
I
center
know,
to do that
true.
we are gonna be putting in water and wastewater in for great.
This whole
springs.
document is incorrect in that regard, in my opinion.
Okay.
What we are trying to get into the town plan so that we can do the paperwork to do it is historic village center. So everywhere where it says village center, the word historic should be put in front of that.
I thought the historic one was for this area and the village center designation, just straight village center was for South.
There's
Village.
no such thing as a straight village center. It's designated new downtown. Something that no one, 2 cities in Vermont have done. It's really difficult.
We'll just
Yeah.
have
We
to-
aren't going to do it. I can tell you, you won't see me working on that,
Yeah,
okay? And yes, it will help us move to the top of grants and other things, having a historic village. We've made the argument that that area is also a historic village, and if a different person other than the one guy in the state who gets to choose
yeah.
was in place, we might get historic designation down there. But,
So it
I
appears they may
don't-
have dropped the historic from the state website.
and then just call it a.
Yeah, village center designation supports the revitalization efforts of small and medium-sized historic centers.
Okay, so they've changed their title.
Right.
Okay, so the
But-
wording is good, but where it's leading the state to believe that we're going to have municipal water and sewer because of that designation may or may not be true, because unless we can get the state to allow us to designate that area as a village center,
Neighborhood area.
no.
I feel like this
We're
is-
not doing the neighborhood thing either.
Oh.
That's.
Yeah, there's a list of it.
Freaking hard.
In fact, that was kind of one of the comments that I was gonna make, 4.4. It says South Village is an area located off the road that has been designated as the. the growth center of the town.
Yeah,
And that's
that
a little
would-
bit weird, but then it goes on to 6.4. It says that we don't have a growth center.
Right. So
Now,
either
is there is there some sort of state thing
growth center is a
is
designated,
a thing?
so we either need to change the wording as we are focusing,
Yeah, so what's our purpose or what's the,
but the growth center is a thing and we are not.
so we don't have a designated growth center as we speak.
Identified area for growth.
Yeah, that may be, it. Yeah.
Just wording it slightly differently.
Just so we don't, mix up buzzwords. I hate
Right.
buzzwords, but
So I just, I guess, kind of want to state my concern for. It seems like we're rewriting the plan to benefit one, maybe two people.
But I think the idea in this plan that we're designating this area and going to get municipal water and sewer or be eligible for funding for municipal water and sewer is really gray. Because the area that we have approval to designate is not where we want municipal water and sewer. We can say that in here, that it will help us get funding for things, but I don't think it's the answer to our municipal water and sewer. And we're leading them to believe that it is. Is the state ever gonna come back and check and say, hey, you never put it in? No. So, it's somewhat of a gray area.
Mm.
There is a sentence on page 10 that I'm having a hard time with.
So are these actually numbered or?
Yes, they are.
Very
right-
faintly.
Right there.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. Okay.
So it says,
Brighten my eyeballs here.
with limited time to create the plan and move through the adoption process, this was necessary to work with the planning commission chair and coordinator to keep the project moving forward and on schedule. First of all, that's a very long sentence with no commas, and second of all, I don't know what it's trying to say.
Project.
That we hired a management company to. Move it
Okay.
along.
Oh, I did, but it does say, please identify one or two individuals in the community who will champion the project.
But it doesn't say anything about them championing or about the consultant championing.
Well, no, but the consultant, I don't think the answer to that question, the consultant would not be somebody in
Oh,
town.
will the project.
I can add in, with limited time to create the plan and move through the adoption process, comma, the adoption or the invitation for a consultant was necessary to work with the planning commission, blah, blah, blah.
That would be, yeah, that might be,
Okay.
yeah.
We've already started the process or something, yeah, something like that.
I've seen this mentioned a couple times, but what? I see post-COVID mentioned a
Mhm.
lot, in what regards, what about it is challenging to us that it needs to be necessary?
The comments that we have run into anyway is
Nobody wants an office anymore.
yeah. So now we're having trouble with our
The
commercial
retail-
space off
Retail, commercial.
slash office space
So
and
that's, I didn't pick that up based off
No, it doesn't.
post-COVID world.
It doesn't
And
say
then
that.
It doesn't
in
say
the
that.
next
But
breath,
but
it's like,
the-
we need businesses, so
the
which,
comment
is
is
it?
that if you look at our old plan. Pre-COVID and you look at post-COVID, suddenly a lot of the stuff we were planning on having happen. Flat out isn't necessary now.
Well,
It's
I-
changed the fertilizer, so to speak, that was there, that we wanted to see this growth happen, isn't necessary. We've changed to a much more, we were 8 years ago, we were a bedroom community, but now we're an outrageously bedroom community
yeah,
with people having very little contact with the
people don't
town.
even want sidewalks.
So this is a whole new thing that we've got to figure out how. And one of the weird things about planning is that you have to you can't be reactionary, but you've still gotta be ahead of the ball. You've got to plan on like not dropping all of the things that were in the old plan just because things have changed. You need to say, well, maybe 5 years from now, it's gonna circle back again. You know, so
Right. But I didn't gather any of that from post-COVID world.
well, I think
Just a
that, I
little
think
vague.
the, on page
It doesn't
10, the
actually
second,
spell it out to me.
it says in a post-COVID society. Oh, society, it doesn't even say in our town, post-COVID.
Just as
Changes in lifestyle and demand for housing outreach is a top priority going into the development of plan.
post-COVID, you know, in the section right before that,
That's
the
what-
next issue is addressing a post-COVID environment. That's,
Yeah, without
Fine.
describing what a
I
post-COVID
don't-
environment is. It's a, okay.
Okay, so maybe we can put a little more detail into what we're talking about when we say post-COVID.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
with the change,
less office space and more people working from home, so there's not necessarily.
but then in the next section, if there's
Sharing.
changes.
That might be something that we can put in 2.4, the project description, if we introduce the post-COVID issue here, it can follow throughout the rest of the document, and I know above it says something along the line of perhaps waiting until the end to do 2.4. And at the very end, so you can kind of roll it all together, and that makes sense.
Cause this text was pulled right out of our current plan. 2.4 text,
oh, really? Okay.
2.3 text pulled right out of the plan, word for word.
Which saying there's not enough need for office space, these changes will, like going in that next section right below, you know, the ability to add municipal water and wastewater infrastructure to the town of Georgia. Allow for areas designated for growth. Such as the South Village, so that's where it indicates that we have, I mean, intention.
Section right on.
4.3. So page 8. It's like these changes will increase the likelihood of attracting new businesses and services to fulfill, but it's a post-COVID world.
But we have no
Who's gonna be-
retail,
I know,
there's still,
Certain people are very convinced that they're not gonna be able to fill those spots.
I know they are, but I think
So
this
why do we try
town
to say we're gonna
certainly
get-
has, still has a lot of need.
I want those businesses. It's just, you hear conflicting stuff from people
Yeah.
wanting to develop it.
I
They just
think-
wanna do housing, nobody's gonna go there
I
for
think
that. so I'm-
office wise, yeah, we don't need a lot of offices, but I think there are several businesses we can still use in town, so anyway. Let's see, on page 11. Talks about the town groups that we're gonna work with, for example.
And are,
Yeah, first of all, there's no Friends of the Library, but we do have a Georgia Library, so maybe we could include those guys. And it's Vermont ANR, not and R,
Agency of Natural Resources.
right after Friends. Pick up Friends and you can see where the A and R.
Yeah, I've got a different version, but
Oh.
I'll add it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think you said you were on page 11.
that was on
Yeah.
page 11, yeah,
that's the box.
5.2.
All right. I see. I thought I saw it somewhere else listed, but
No.
something else.
And on the next page, I got another weird sentence. Let's see. New businesses to our community will also demonstrate the success of the project with more tax income to support another desire for the town of Georgia recreation. Okay, read it now. That is a very long sentence. And this desire for the town, in my opinion, the recreation department services, all this long sentence here, is a desire for a small portion of the town.
Agreed.
And I don't think we should call out that thing as our thing that that will mark our success.
Alright, so you'll see the, evaluation criteria, it's in a shaded box underneath. So they'll give us points on whatever that section is above. So I think the question there was, will the outcomes resolve the community needs identified in a way that is consistent with the regional plan, Vermont planning goals, smart growth principles, and other.
Nobody. This isn't one of our real goals. I get wanting points, but that's not what everybody's banging their pots and pans to spend increased tax revenue on.
What about sidewalks? More walkable town?
Well, just as they're doing their rec center and there's pushback for that, so you know.
Hmm.
Cause you're still gonna have to pay, even if we build a rec center in Georgia. You can't just drop in and use it with your tax dollars, there's gonna be a monthly membership fee.
Sure.
Okay, we're not here to discuss the rec center, but can we substitute sidewalks in there
We
instead?
can put
Or-
in, this, another desire for town of Georgia, so hopefully we can get some, you know, in addition to perhaps the rec department sidewalks, more walkable town, what are some other things
Why
that?
the rec department? Why are we hanging our head on that?
Isn't, so you were saying the specified things that the state's looking
Sure.
for, so is that one of them?
Right, and.
Can
I
we
think
just say rec programs and not a rec department, or,
Sure.
cause that, I can see more programs happening, whether the town pays for them or not, but providing a space for them.
And this might even be something we wanna wait to submit until after we've gotten the information back from, Mr. Allen about what our community is looking for.
That could be
What our
too,
community wants. So not just what the planning commission wants, but what the
Yep.
community is asking for now.
Small community
Hmm.
members.
Okay. I just think putting it in here, and if somebody ever read this, they'd say, hey, look, you said you were gonna have a rec department, once you pass this town plan, and I don't wanna be tied to that. And then on the next page. The last line of the 6.3 box, this will also allow the town of Georgia to create a walkable community space complete with park access and space for community to host events. So I guess that's what you want. I thought park
Back
access
in the other one.
was a weird term, but I guess that's really what you want.
And I just, that affordable housing, I know there's a definition of affordable, and I tried to get an answer of what some of those units could be rented for.
I'm sure it's a moving target all the time, but it's so much
Yeah,
percent of.
but is that infrastructure? You can't say that it'd be rented out for 2,000. Oh, but now we get the designation, now it's only gonna rent it out for 1,800. I just think that's.
Yeah, it's not,
ingenuous.
that's until the state. I mean, we can come up with all kinds of things, but until the state actually,
I don't think that designation is gonna do anything for
exactly, I
the
do,
cost, to be honest.
and
So,
the cost is still a floating number. Decided by the landlord's profit margin.
yep.
It has nothing to do with
It's a
what you have, which
landlord's
is,
market.
I mean, yeah, the more units you have in one unit, the less desirable they are, so less people will pay for them, but then you make your money on volume. So we're gonna be encouraging high rises. I mean, you know, it's a a very weird thing on. I wish the state would come up with some sort of a plan for affordable housing that required a developer every fifth unit to have it at a percentage of the average housing cost in the town. You would have to, after 10 units, you have to build 2 units that are below median 25%, 50%, whatever, you know. And then have that in Act 250 or something, but
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Northwest, when we were putting our zoning regs in place this last round, we were gonna put in there to require every fourth unit to be a smaller unit for a minimum of 5 years, which we asked for now, and we had been asking for, and they said, oh, you don't wanna put that in your regs. But they couldn't explain to us why. So it's not in our regs, we still do the ask, and we pretty much always get one. Some of the developers just come in expecting to be asked and put it in already, which
yeah.
they're getting used to it, but I thought it was strange that they said not to put it in there. I don't know why.
But then interestingly enough, too, it still doesn't necessarily relate to the cost.
No, it doesn't, but
And that's,
you
that's
get
what's-
a,
Wasn't
yeah,
there a
fighting
state
chance.
requirement?
I sure hope that a 1,500 square foot house is gonna cost less than the 3,000 square foot house. It may not be deemed affordable
Hmm.
in the state's calculation of affordability, but it should be at a lower price than the other ones.
And in that same section with the park access, will there be a park there? Because there's not currently a park.
Well,
No, no, there was talk in the design.
well, yes, but that doesn't mean, all they have to do is
still
provide
private
some
property.
kind of, I forget what it's called, but,
Yeah,
Like
open space,
community-
community open space.
right, it could be a swing set, it could be a gazebo, it could be, it doesn't have to be
Well,
a
Bove's,
park.
Bove's plan has it in it, and, Black Walnut, of course, has to have it in it because of his water supply thing. He can't do anything with this, what is it, 2 acres of grass that he can't cover up,
Huge
so.
lot.
Um. Again, that would change
Private
that
park, public park?
markedly. Well, that's,
Can
yeah.
anybody host an event there or?
One of the
Was it limit- what
difficulties
is
that
it?
we don't have, and I wonder if this is a possibility to put some wording in one of these somewhere. To apply for grant funding so that it might make us eligible for something, so that the town could invest in its own infrastructure, like a park, something like that, because we, at the moment, do ask the developers, but like you say, it's on private land, and I mean, nobody's gonna put a public park that they're liable for on public land. I mean, that's kind of weird. So that might be something that goes in the project outcomes and goals to make it possible to open up granting opportunities so that the town can invest in its own infrastructure that the town would like to see. I mean, that might be like a rec department thing or something, but I don't know that you would want to specify that, but if the town could find money to invest in itself. Of course, we have to have visionary select board people that would do that, but that's that's another thing. That's later on. We'll plan on this and work on it.
Okay, and then on page 14, it says that we have not had any grants in the past 5 years, and I'm not sure that's 100% correct. First of all, this is such a blind question. It says, list any planning projects or grants from the past 5 years. Does that mean from them or any grants in general? I don't know. And we had a grant for our zoning regulations, which went in place in 2021. And so that was less than 5 years ago. I don't know when the grant ran out, perhaps 2020, but still that would have
Was
been,
that for planning?
yeah,
Okay.
right? I'm pretty sure we had a grant,
Yeah,
because we had,
We had Taylor.
Taylor
Yeah,
Oh, that was
working
before
so
me.
many hours.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah. I know we had a grant and it may have run out in 2020. We put the plan in place in 21, or maybe even 19, but still 19 is less than 5 years ago, so.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Would
what
have had a
that-
grant.
What kind of grant it was?
It was one of these
It actually was with Northwest.
with a Northwest Regional
Yeah, 'cause
Plan.
what's her face, help,
Catherine
Demetra, yeah.
Yeah.
helped us with it.
Dimitri or whatever her
You
name.
know.
Symmetric. Yeah,
It was
Probably the-
for updating our
updating our,
zoning.
Development.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, which ran out first, Taylor or the?
Taylor moved. and Taylor moved and we weren't quite done, but we still were asking him questions, even though he was down in South Burlington or whatever.
I think he's at Chittenden County.
Oh.
Regional Planning.
Yeah, that's where he works now. Their office must be in South Burlington or Burlington.
Williston, Winooski, not Williston, Winooski. Winooski pulled in a. Wow. There for a kind of training thing.
One of their new buildings
No,
or
One of
something?
the like old mills kind of further down.
Oh, all right. Anything else on this?
That about,
And I really do think it's saying the right things to make them say, yeah, it looks like you're doing a great thing here, and whether we actually do it or not, they'll never check. So I'm not saying that we should fill it with lies, but if we lead them to believe something that we'd never actually do, it's not gonna be a big problem.
So did we ever get official bids?
well, grand
Yeah.
total of one, right? It was his
No,
and,
we had-
or was it one other?
Yeah, we had one or two others.
But I think they couldn't do it in our timeline or
Right.
something.
That
We
was,
did, I think we got.
I tried to ask for that number before and like.
He was
not
the,
get a
this
straight
is
answer.
the guy, this Michael guy was the only one that could do it in our time. Were you here when he came or no?
No.
He seems like a really nice
Yeah.
guy. His specialty is zoning regulations, but he's done town planning.
well, I'm absolutely blown away. This is a little bit. Because Northwest's version of how to do it when we did it last time. Was entirely different.
But as you can see, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Many towns have gone away from that standard of,
Well, what-
that's how most towns were back then.
What the kicker
There
is
weren't a lot of towns doing
unfortunately,
the ones that were all
Northwest
pretty
has
good.
to approve this thing when we're done.
And they will, you look at towns around us, they have plans like what we're,
You talk
Expected
with,
to put together.
what's interesting is, Kyle is that Northwest Regional, isn't he?
he's at Northwestern,
Yeah, and he says, oh yeah, he says, we haven't approved a lot of plans,
they haven't,
have not. That they've had to send them back for rewrites. and-
because they're missing stuff. Oh,
Not just saying.
I have a meeting with him on Thursday, a
Okay.
town meeting, I'll ask him. Cause he's not gonna help us fail, he's gonna help us succeed, so if he can give people tips about
Hopefully.
what we. He still has the town of Georgia, interest in the town of Georgia, so. Okay, we have minutes from our.
Oh,
Yeah, try and dig those up. Do we have? Oh, are they printed?
yeah, man.
Oh,
Beginning on page 3. Oh, shoot. Do you know if Doug has said anything to LCA TV? I think I mentioned that I might be able to, but I haven't yet.
I don't know, yeah.
Oh, the reserve them for the
Hmm.
meeting.
Yeah, they need to know usually quite a
Oh,
ways
then I'll
in
put it on
advance.
her list. Hey, I got you out of baking cookies.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Anybody see anything wrong with these? Doing another thing that we didn't add to our agenda, we'll do it after this. Wanna make a motion?
So moved.
That's like, an-
Any changes? If not, all in favor?
I,
Anybody opposed?
oh, wait a minute.
What?
You might wanna change the, you weren't here,
I
can
was
you
here last
actually?
No,
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
was
Oh,
there last
voting
time.
abstaining, okay, it was another,
Everybody's here.
okay.
Okay. The select board has asked the planning commission to review, I'm trying to think of the name, what do you call the fees that a builder pays? Impact fee, the impact fee ordinance.
Mhm.
This was called to their attention by the treasurer because there are guidelines in the ordinance about how money can be spent by different departments, but they're not
I brought that up before
Um,
town meeting day.
really clear. Okay, there's a definition, and in the definition, it spells out exactly what you can do, but unfortunately. That is not translated well into the document, and so right now, people are spending it willy-nilly. Oh, we've got impact fees, let's buy this, let's do this, let's do this. And not using it, it's supposed to be for capital expenditures. And so the treasurer is questioning,
I,
buying a new wrench or fixing a flat tire, not capital expense.
just wanna say, I brought this up before town meeting day. I asked the old select board what they were doing with that, because they had to go for that, and I got no answer.
Well,
So she didn't
the new-
really find it, I,
The new select board is paying attention, and
Good.
so I don't think it would take a lot to change the ordinance
Mhm.
to make it enforceable. I've read it over, we were supposed to get that sent to us, and Doug didn't mention
because
that.
after 5 years, if that money that was taken for that project was not used, it should be refunded to the people.
Well, it
who
has
paid
to
the
all be
impact.
tracked, like, say you build a house and you pay $1,000 in impact fees, they have to say, Jared built a house and he paid fees on this date. And so much went to fire, so much went to library, and so much went to whatever. And then as those, entities, like the fire department, spends capital funds. Then they say, well, we spent $800 for a new jetpack or whatever it is, to fight a forest fire. And so they take the oldest money that's in their impact fees and drain that and keep working down the list. But if your money is still in there, now you have to know that your money is.
Yeah, right, yeah,
And they're not gonna share that with you very often, but if you know that your money's still in there after 6 years, you can request that it be refunded to you.
Wow.
So most of the departments just go and spend all the money they get every year just on willy-nilly stuff, but not on capital expenses. They have capital expenses, and it's really a matter of record keeping. If they just did the record keeping correctly, they could still spend a lot of their money each year, or definitely spend it before the 6 years are up. But they shouldn't be sending in bills for, little incidental things that aren't capital expenses.
24 VSA, it's chapter 131, so 24 VSA 52.
So I got a copy the night that I was at the select board meeting when this came up. And I read through it and I really think that it could be tweaked pretty easily to make it so that the treasurer can say, no, this isn't a capital expense, or this is a capital expense, whatever.
Are our fees an actual ordinance?
Well, I'm not sure all the fees are in that ordinance. That's
Is it
another
an
thing.
ordinance or a document?
Our fees are a document. There is an ordinance that has fees in it, but I'm not sure all the fees are in it. So that's another question, but that's something that they would like to have done for March, yeah, sooner rather than
Yeah.
later. So that the next budget year, that will be set in stone. So I think we should move that towards the top of our list.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be in our next packet and we can have everybody read that before the next meeting. We're just doing half a meeting with, half of our meeting, we're discussing here, Michael's notes. And then the other half of the meeting, maybe we can discuss that ordinance,
What would you like to see in the packet?
the actual copy of the impact fee ordinance that's currently on the books. And the list of impact fees, which I think is a separate document.
Why are we reviewing RBES and V-Trans stuff?
Where,
Sorry, I'm on the fee schedule, we don't have the jurisdiction to do that. Not us, the town. Sorry,
oh, you're in,
I'm on the fee schedule.
which is, does that include the impact fees?
Well, residential, yeah, it lists out impact fees required for each residential, required for each new dwelling unit, $4,500. Doesn't break up the difference between like education and like other, just as a.
That's in the ordinance.
Where's that ordinance?
I don't know, she'll find it, send it to me. And that's the other thing, is the select board
You hope,
question
huh?
how that ordinance was set up way back in the day, when they set it up, was they took the value of each of the different departments that were impacted, the school, the town office, the fire department, and determined their percentage based on their value. So the school got a big percentage. At the time, the fire department had a rinky-dink little building, so they did not get very much. The town office was a newer building, so they got more. It's really hokey who gets what. So if you look at it, you know, they get a lot of money for this building and a lot less for fire, but you think the fire department has a much bigger impact.
Hmm.
A new house, new road, another, you know, more impact. So they were trying to figure out how that could be more fairly distributed. So I think that we need to look at how other towns do it. I don't really know.
Yeah, really,
That's one of those things that no matter what you do, you're gonna make somebody upset. But it's
Right.
all money going into the town, but a big chunk of it is going to the school, and the school budget's still going like this, so I'm not sure our impact fees are doing much for them, but.
Having much of an impact.
Right.
well, unfortunately, on an entirely different note, I was actually very surprised to hear how little the thing we've always argued or had a conniption about is the fine, so to speak, for developing a wetland. And then to hear that it was only $1 a square foot.
And the town gets zero.
Yeah,
In my opinion, we need to enact our own fine. So that if they impact wetlands and buffers, we get some money from that, because it's our town that's getting affected. and the state gets all the money, and a buck a square foot is nothing to a
Yeah,
developer.
I was,
Nothing.
I thought it was like, you know, like a driveway culvert or something like that would be $10,000 or $15,000, and it's,
No,
if only you have a, you know, a 5 foot wide strip where you threw a culvert down into a wetland, and it's, you know, $100. And you're like, well, I'd do that. But,
all right,
okay, so that's that.
Random side note about that definition, maybe that half a page definition for a fueling station.
Oh, yeah. yes.
One of my coworkers made a good point, that it's oddly, it's too specific, because the technology changes so fast, having something like that so spelled out
Hmm.
could be problematic.
yes,
That's why,
Hmm.
like definitions, they're supposed to help put things in boxes, but not necessarily like paint you in a corner. So you need definitions to figure out
Well,
what things are, so you can put
right.
things in boxes, but you don't want them too specific
Yeah.
where you.
only
aren't-
one business fits this definition.
Yeah, so you need to come up with 30 different definitions
Right.
to describe what you're looking to get. Yeah, we keep going back and forth with that, because the last time. You know, Suzanne and I now have gone, what, is this our? That was our second rewrite of the regs. And I don't know about the town plan, I think I've only been through one of them before. But it's a fascinating, you write this thing up. And even before the final draft is put in,
It's outdated.
it's outdated. And you keep writing notes at every meeting, like, okay, that didn't work well. Let's tweak that for the next one. Let's tweak that for the next one. You get to the next one, and sometimes,
Right.
some people have those notes, some people don't have those notes, and it's.
Yeah,
So I think this, how specific those charging units, I mean, I know they're standardizing, but
Oh, it gets, yeah,
it's too specific. And that can be problematic, like,
Yeah.
well, I can't find a Tesla. Super ultra, whatever charging station, they were discontinued suddenly, like, well, can't do it, now it's a problem. So I just, not that I really anticipate us getting many fueling stations put in
Well,
town.
no, actually,
You
there's.
never know.
Right, you never know.
There
I think
there should be a lot of them, because there's a lot of state money to require businesses like handicap parking to have charging stations. They won't be the right one,
And one thing
but.
that some folks in the fire safety world
Mhm.
are concerned about, the charging stations in underground parking of like multi-story housing units, because those lithium, like I guess the majority of the fires for electric cars tend to be
Battery related.
stationary, battery related, and the
Mhm.
lithium burns hotter,
Mhm.
depending on the kind of, a lot of things. Cause it's so hot, there's a chance the whole building may need to be demolished or whatever, obviously to the extent, whatever the fire is, but it was
Like that bridge, wherever it was in the Midwest, the fuel truck had an accident.
Yeah, that was
And it
crazy.
melted the bridge, so they had to tear down the whole
Right.
bridge because it was no longer safe. And it was a major route too, and it was just screwed the city up for quite a while. But, yeah, those kinds of things. Yeah, there's no really great ideas, there's just ideas that are on a seesaw and they keep
Right.
getting balanced differently.
It's finding the balance of creating boxes that are big enough to capture what we want, but not so small that we need more little boxes, or we're just not catching what we want to catch with the definition.
Well, and also what's interesting is how the interpretation changes too. If you get a new board, the attitude's kind of, what the hell's that in there for?
Yeah,
And
well, you need to have enough language or notes or whatever, because, like years ago, things got put in place and I don't even know why they're there,
trying to figure
But
out what did they
the
mean
way-
by that?
no PUDs in the Lake Shore district.
Yeah,
And there have been some people that have been adamant that they wanna put PUDs. But I don't wanna just change it, I wanna put some thought into why was that put in place?
cause
You know?
you'd think that's the area that you would actually want it. So that less of the lake shore would be developed like the one,
Old Dock Roads?
No, he's thinking the
No.
one on the other side,
that we kept developing and developing and developing and.
it's, you know, I had 2 camps down on the water and 1 permanent house, and they came in with a whole bunch. It was Jen and,
It was Mill's old property, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Howard
Yeah.
Mills?
Yeah, and it kept,
Oh, yeah.
And
yep, yep, yep.
because of the way it came in, we knew
He was gonna
that
come
if
in.
we decided it this way, it wouldn't work. And if we decided it this way, he'd just come back and make it not work. And that's exactly what happened. And we were like, oh, that's, we shot ourselves in the foot with the regulations. It was,
Still seem pretty strict development.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They basically got what they wanted and it was like, how did we?
yeah.
Is that about it for them? What we have to mess about with?
Yes,
So we don't need to go into deliberations or anything on anything? Okay. Move to adjourn?
all in favor.
Seconded, aye.
Aye.
Does everybody know that there's a town meeting on November 7th?
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, yeah, that's,
So some rumblings that's to switch the phone year.
That is, and it's going to be a floor vote.
Okay, that's the one for the budget going fiscal
To
year.
fiscal
yeah.
year. And to correct one of the many mistakes that were on the ballot